Welcome to the Intermittent Gentleman, and today we have a head-to-head comparison video on two high-end cigar accessories. Today we're looking at on the left, ST Dupont double blade cigar cutter in chrome, and on the right we're looking at the Porsche Design 3-in-1 cigar cutter P3626. Hang in there, this is going to be a longer video. We're going to compare and contrast, take a look individually at some specs, and give you my thoughts on these cigar cutters as high-end cigar accessories. Additionally, we'll put them to the test by cutting some cigars and see how they perform, and compare them to some other things out there in the market, some other cutters that I have as well. So let's jump right in and take a look at these cigar cutters. These two cutters look very similar. The mechanism that they are employing is going to be a spring-loaded side, and then the straight cutter, you can see, has a stationary blade and then a blade on the actuating slider here. The V cutter having a channel with your V cut blades coming through. So what's unique about these styles of cutters is that they offer both a straight cut and a V cut. There's only a couple out there on the market that do this. There are a couple smokehouse cheap plastic versions that have one long blade going through and a channel for a V cut and a channel for a straight cut. The only other higher end, if I would, cutter that offers both is the Colibri SV cut. It's more of a front and back type cutter where on the front you'll have your hole for a straight cut, and on the flip side you'll have your blades and a slot for a V cut. But these two, being in the slider spring-loaded style, are going to be pretty much the only options out there. As far as I can tell, both these cutters are manufactured by the same company out in China. So ST Dupont on the left there, they are a high-end fashion accessories company out of Paris, France. Started in the late 1800s. They do pens, some leather goods like wallets and purses and small bags, and then some other fashion accessories like cufflinks. But they're also world known for their cigar accessories as well. Several types of high-end cigar lighters, as well as several models of cutters, and I think maybe some humidors and cigar wallets as well. I'll put a link down in the description. Porsche Design is also kind of a catch-all fashion accessories boutique. Leather goods, sunglasses, pens, some minor jewelry type accessories, and they also manufacture, or at least put their name on, some cigar accessories like lighters and cutters. Both of these cutters, though, come out of China. So ST Dupont's here, I believe, there it is on the plunger, right here. Camera doesn't want to focus, but it does say China. Difference here on the Porsche Designs, you can see there, Porsche Design. Country of origin or country of manufacturing is not found anywhere on this cutter. It comes as a sticker that was on the cutter that I did remove. But here you can see it in the Porsche Designs box. So Porsche Design, this is the box that it came in. And here is that sticker, made in China. Both of these cutters have identical dimensions in the actual cutters. So the dimensions here for the straight cut advertise that it can cut up to a 60 ring gauge cigar, as well as the dimensions within the V cut slot are exactly the same. Additionally, there's some similarities in the internals as well. So if we take a look on the internals, if you can see here on the V cutter, there is this laser etched marking here, and then on the other end here as well. And this also exists on the ST Dupont V cutter as well. So there's just some laser etching, kind of like a crisscross design here within the V cut. Blades are extremely sharp on the straight cutter as well as the V cut. Definitely super sharp to the fingertip, just rubbing your finger over the edge. Very sharp and gives a very clean cut, which I will show you on camera. But let's take a deeper dive into each one of these cutters, and then we'll come back and discuss what I like about each and what I dislike about each. Alright, starting with the ST Dupont double blade cutter. Just wanted to show it comes in this presentation gift box here. Foam inside, place for the cutter, and then beneath is going to house your registration or warranty card. Taking a deeper look at the cutter here, it is that high polished chrome, almost mirror-like finish, which you can see as well is simply just a fingerprint magnet when it comes to it. And the brief handling of it in the intro, you can see it's just becoming all smudged up. And then obviously pressing on it here, just a fingerprint magnet. So if you are interested in the ST Dupont high chrome one or polished chrome option, just know that you will be kind of cleaning it up a decent amount if that's the kind of thing that bothers you. But on the same side, it does speak or show or demonstrate kind of a supreme luxury product, anything that is shiny and bright like that. So like I said, for both of the cutters, they advertise that it can straight cut a 60 ring cigar, and then it has the V-cut option as well. Slider mechanism, the detent is noticeable. It's not, I have no worries about it possibly opening up without being depressed. Very smooth. I'm sure you can hear it. But trust me, it feels buttery smooth. There's no hang-ups, there's no rough spot. Just really good deploying there. Minimal rattle. So some side-to-side play, but very minimal. The straight cut can be used from either side. So if you needed to, you can cut it this way, or you can cut it this way using the straight cut. So it kind of depends on, as you hold the cutter in your hand, how do you feel about depressing the plunger? Would you like to use your thumb and depress the plunger in, or use your fingers as the motion? However, for the V-cut, you will have to use it only on one side. This side does not have the scalloped out section, allowing you to get your cigar in there. But potentially, you could get a torpedo or a figurado in there and still apply the V-cut. But again, if you wanted to use your thumb as the depressor, I have it in my left hand right now, but you can always just turn it upside down, and then you can use the V-cut and use your fingers as the depressing action. The other nice feature about this ST Dupont that sets it a little bit apart from the Porsche Design double cutter is that it's radiused. So you can see the top kind of curves down, as well as the bottom here, so it has that nice curve to it. Additionally, it's radiused across the middle too. So it's thinner down on the sides than it is up here in the middle. It's kind of a nice swell in the shape of the case of the cutters. Blades are super sharp on both of these. Again, I believe they come from the same manufacturer in China, using the same pushers maybe, or the same materials at least. The blades are very sharp and give a very nice clean cut. It is 3.1 inches tall, so just over 3 inches tall. It's 1.85 inches wide, and then on the thickness, it is, kind of depends on where you measure it. I got 0.48, but if we take a look, down at the ends, coming in 0.42, but as we swell up to the middle here, 0.47. So again, with that, you can see, if I put the caliper up in the middle, you can see how there's space between the end, or the edge, to the middle. So it has that nice swell there. But we'll go 0.42 down here, 0.48 when you get up into the middle. Alright, let's switch gears and take a look at the Porsche Design. Alright, so now we're here with the Porsche Design's 3-in-1 P3626 cigar cutter. The Porsche Design cigar cutter comes in this presentation box. It has a magnetic flip-top lid, foam interior to hold the cutter, and below that a warranty registration card, similar to the ST Dupont. This cutter is a 3-in-1, as the name suggests. So just like the ST Dupont, we have a straight cut and we have a V-cut. But this cutter has an additional feature that has a flip top punch built in as well. Very similar to what you see kind of attached to the bottom of a lot of cigar lighters out there. 60 ring cutter, V-cut, and I believe it's an 8mm punch. Same design, so detent spring-loaded actuator that contains the blades, with the straight cut having a static blade here. Same as with the ST Dupont, you could cut the straight cut from either side, however the V-cut is only scalloped on one. It does say Porsche Design on the pusher here. This one is their satin chrome finish. You can see the pusher is kind of a higher polish, and then this is more of a matte or satin. It's not coming across camera that well, but it does definitely have a texture to it. Kind of feels like a sandblasted coating, but I do believe it is a spray-on or an applied type of coating, because in this corner I have a chip right there, and it looks like it's black underneath. So I believe it's some sort of spray coating, but I haven't been able to see any internals that have not been applied. Holding up pretty well. Doesn't give off the same level of luxury or prestige maybe that the ST Dupont does, but it is kind of giving you that additional option of a punch. And there you can see is the P3626 designator or model number. The Porsche Design is a little bit taller than the ST Dupont, and I believe that's because of the introduction of the punch feature. So it's 3.25, 3.26 tall. It is the same width though, so it's going to sit at 1.85 wide. And for the Porsche Design, there are no radius or curved surfaces. It is one big rectangle, and that goes for the thickness as well. It is 0.45 the whole way through the cutter. So more blocky, no curved edges. Another difference here with the Porsche is that they're using, I believe, like T6s maybe, torque screws as the hardware, and only on one side. All right, so let's cut back to show both and work through a little bit of a comparison and give you some of my thoughts. All right, now we're back looking at both cutters, and we're going to do a little bit of comparison and contrast. So on the left here we have the ST Dupont high polished chrome double blade cigar cutter, and on the right is the Porsche Design 3-in-1 P3626. The ST Dupont is nice. So the high polished chrome, the materials, as well as the name ST Dupont, if that's something that's important to you. But regardless, it's still well made, very sharp blades, and a great design. If you're someone who likes a straight cut and a V-cut, either of these cutters are the best accessory out there for you. If you're looking for a gift for someone who is a cigar aficionado, or even someone getting into the hobby, but definitely someone who smokes a decent amount of cigars, these two accessories are going to go a long way and saving them some money long term on buying a plethora of other cutters and accessories. Now, the ST Dupont is a fingerprint magnet, as I said, in its individual look. It is just smudge-tastic. Nice design with the radius curves. Again, the swelling or radius thickness as well. But it does come at a premium cost. So I don't know if it's the cheapest. I'll do a little bit of searching and put some information in the description. But I purchased mine from lightersusa.com, and it's coming in the chrome finish, $161.50. think you're paying a little bit of an ST Dupont tariff or tax, if you will, there. The Porsche Design might be the best option out there for someone who is an avid cigar smoker and who prefers different types of cuts to their cigars. It doesn't appear as luxurious in the matte silver or satin color that they have here with that sandblasted feeling or texture. Again, it does feel like some sort of coating rather than the raw material, but it is a 3-in-1 with that 8mm punch compared to the ST Dupont, as well as, because of its matte finish, not a smudge magnet or fingerprint magnet, maybe just on the pusher here that says Porsche Design. Both are just as smooth. Yeah, so the mechanisms themselves, there's no difference between the two, really. The Porsche Design coming in, actually the cheapest price that I found for the Porsche Design is from their website, which I'll link below, and the Porsche Design's coming in at $135. So 135, 161. And you kind of really have to determine, is the look of the ST Dupont worth, you know, 26 extra dollars? And again, with the Porsche Design, you are getting a punch feature as well, depending on if you like a punch or if not. But, you know, as a one-stop shop for cutting, the Porsche Design having all of your options built right in. Additionally, I didn't point this out in the ST Dupont deep dive, but the ST Dupont is utilizing flathead screws, front and back. Now, one thing, if you take notice, and I know it's tough with the camera showing up in the background, but the ST Dupont, the front of the cutter, all of the flathead screws are aligned. So they're all horizontal, which that attention to detail I do appreciate from the manufacturer. However, on the back, they're kind of all over the place, right? So we have one vertical, that one's at a diagonal, that one is a diagonal, and that one is the other diagonal. So, didn't care as much about the back, but the front, where the ST Dupont logo is, or name, all of those screws are facing the same direction. I do appreciate that attention to detail. Whereas on the Porsche Design, they're using, I believe, T6s maybe even smaller. And it's only on the back, actually, of the cutter. Front being the one with the scalp for the V-cut, but on the front, no hardware there. But really, a cigar cutter isn't always about how it looks. I think a larger part of it, and I would hope all my viewers would too, is about how does it cut. So let's put these cutters to the test and see how well they do. Alright, so we're going to start out with the ST Dupont cutter. Doing this on camera is going to be a little bit weird with the angles and trying to get everything in there. Additionally, I don't have cigars all of the same size. I have a couple that I just didn't keep in the humidor. I kept them in an older desktop humidor. Didn't really care about them. They were free. So they're going to kind of crack and break as I cut them as well, so just be prepared for that. But let's start out with the straight cut from the ST Dupont cutter. So the nice thing about this cutter is that you can kind of get in line with how much you want to take off. Snip it through. You can see that cut did leave a slight mountain there in the middle. Could be the cigar. Just take it with a grain of salt that these cigars are super dried out. But overall, quick and easy cut. Let's take a look at the ST Dupont V-cut. So cut right through. Got a nice deep channel there. Flip side. No damage to the cap, even on these super dried out cigars. You will have some cigar remnants in your cutter. You can just blow that out with air or shake it out. All right, let's take a look at the good old Porsche Design. So this is probably an outlier for this review. This is a big old 62 gauge ring stick. Let's see how it cuts though. They both advertise they should be able to cut at least a 60, so we'll see if we can get this 62 in here as well. All right, clean cut there. Got it a little bit on an angle, just from trying to do it in front of the camera. A little bit on an angle, but still very clean cut throughout. And let's now do the Porsche Design V-cut. So there's your V-cut. After seeing both cigar cutters cut and using them myself on some better seasoned cigars, as well as a handful of those dried out ones I had that I cut off camera, I'll tell you that both cutters pretty much perform exactly the same. Again, I'm going to keep reiterating it. It's my belief that at least the cutting mechanism, the plungers, and the blades are coming out of the same factory in China. Regardless of what you as a viewer may think of my cutting abilities or prowess, I'll tell you that both are pretty much performing identical, and both really do give excellent cuts, either in the straight cut or in the V cut. The punch is going to perform just like any other punch that you find attached to lighters in your experience. Super sharp. Just make sure you're doing a turning motion. You're not plunging the punch into your head of your cigar. Twist that cigar around the punch, but it cuts like any other punch out there. Now, for comparison, these two cutters are really standalone in the industry of this style. The only other multi-function cutter that I could probably recommend, even though I haven't had personal use with it, just as a data point, is the Colibri SV cutter. Now here, for a slight comparison, I do have a Colibri V cutter. So the Colibri V cutter has a release mechanism here, throwing the plunger up and then depressing to cut. They offer a straight cutter in the same form factor with a static blade at the bottom and then a single blade on the plunger too. So it is a double guillotine, but your actuator has one blade and the slot sits a static blade. The SV cut is Colibri's design that incorporates both their V cutter and their straight cutter. However, the design is not like the Porsche designs or the ST Dupont. It is a flip side cutter. So you have your V cut on one side and your straight cut on the other side with one single larger actuator. Now, the Colibri SV cut is also going to be a cheaper option for you. It's coming in on most sites around $75. So the Porsche Design $135, the ST Dupont at $161. You have to think to yourself, is or are either of these cutters worth, let's just round, very primitive rounding, but let's say, are they worth double what the Colibri SV cutter could give you? Well, one major factor there, and again, I haven't had personal experience with the SV cutter, but from other reviews and some other things I've read, the Colibri SV cutter is super thick. So you can see here, and I'll put it on the plunger side down, that the standalone Colibri V cutter is just as thick as either the ST Dupont or the Porsche Design. So remember, the Porsche Design is the same thickness throughout, it's 0.45. The ST Dupont is .42 at its narrowest and .48 at its thickest. And we have the Colibri V-Cut here. That is, whoop, took the battery cap off my calipers there. That is .44, .45 throughout its body. So, the Colibri single cutter, single blade cutter, whether it's the straight cut or the V-Cut, this design, just by itself, is already as thick as the Porsche Design and probably as thick as the average thickness of the ST Dupont. So the SV cutter is a chunky, thick with 2 C's boy. It is definitely pretty thick there in your pocket, as well as any travel case you may have, or day cigar case that you're taking to the smoke lounge. Now I know if you're into a V-Cut, for those viewers that are real into V-Cuts, there are talking points out there about how deep of a V-Cut do you want. And it is well known amongst the cigar accessory guys that the Colibri V-Cut is the deepest channel, or the deepest V-Cut out there. Another player in the cutter game, though, is Cigar. And their X series cutters or XI series cutters are very popular, but so is their V-Cutter here. Now, I'll tell you that these 3 V-Cutters all have different depths of cut. Personal preference depending on which one, but for those of you who don't have a go-to V-Cutter, I want to share with you the depth of each cut, so that way you can go out there and better spend your hard-earned dollars on what you want. So what I did is I used the caliper to take a depth measurement from the top of the cutter down to where the blade starts. This may not result in a true measurement of how deep your V-Cut will be on your cigar. However, it's a consistent measurement to gauge the least depth of a V-Cut to most across the board, just to give you an idea or a base of what type of cuts these different V-Cutters are going to give you. And I do have them in order here. So the Cigar V-Cut on the far left is going to give you the least deep of a V-Cut at 0.21 inches. The Porsche Design and the ST Dupont, because they are exactly the same there, is going to give you 0.28. And then the Colibri, being kind of the cigar standard for deepest of deep V-Cuts, is 0.32. But rather than tell you about it in numbers, let me go ahead and show you on some cigars. So you can see the Cigar on the far left, the Porsche Design and ST Dupont in the middle, and the Colibri there on the far right. So I know to maybe many of us out there, it seems like little difference between the two, but really, if you took the Cigar and compared it against the Colibri, it's definitely more of a noticeable difference there. So Cigar versus the Colibri. And then we have the ST Dupont or Porsche Design cutter against the Colibri. We'll take the Colibri one out and we'll do the Cigar with or against the ST Dupont and Porsche Design. Why is depth of the V-Cut important? Well, depends on who you ask out there that are smoking cigars, but the main 2 reasons are going to be draw and cigar performance / construction. So depending on how big of a cap you have on the cigar you're smoking, could be a single cap, could be a double cap, could be a triple cap. If you have a super deep V-Cut on a single cap cigar, you may face some problems down the road in your smoking experience, and the cigar may want to start to unravel a bit. if you have two of a shallow cut in your cigar, of a V cut, and you have a triple cap cigar, your draw experience may not be as performing or output as much smoke as you personally like, because you use too shallow of a V cutter. I think both the ST Dupont and this Porsche Design V cutter is a great middle road. I know it's not smack dab in the middle between the two, but it's definitely a very appropriate depth of a V cut that is going to work across different cigar caps. So I hope this review has given you some more information on both of these cutters. As a side note, I didn't mention this earlier, the Porsche Design cutter, as of right now in the States, is only available in this, they call it silver actually. I misspoke earlier, they call it silver, but it is that kind of sandblasted matte silver color. But as of right now in the States, you can only get the silver. In Canada and some other countries, you can get like a titanium, you can get black, and I believe you might be able to get red in some other places too. But if you live in the States, this is your only option. So, to answer the question though, is the ST Dupont or the Porsche Design cutter, is it worth double what the Colibri SV cutter is? And my answer is yes. Yes, it is. As a one-stop shop, if I would have done some research and known these were out there when I purchased this cutter or some other straight cutters that I have, I would have purchased the Porsche Design and called it a day. Having an integrated punch, having an integrated, very sharp, very high quality V cutter, as well as 60 ring gauge straight cutter, I would have bought the Porsche Design cutter and been done with it. The ST Dupont cutter is great as well, but it has less features, minus the punch. It is a little bit more of a luxury item with that high chrome polish, as well as the ST Dupont name stamped on it. And you're paying more for that premium. But for most people, my average viewers out there, is that increased price worth the premium options? I leave that up to you, but I would say the Porsche Design cutter is going to be the best cutting accessory out there for cigars. I hope you enjoy the head-to-head review here in comparison. Smoke some cigars, light them up, click like and subscribe for some more content, and as always, stay a gentleman. Intermittently, of course.